Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala syarifil anbiya'il mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, in the previous video we have touched on the introduction to clinical assessment, the purpose and how we're going to understand the person, predict the behavior, plan the treatment and evaluate the treatment, and how we go broad through our first initiation, then we go forward to find the root cause of the problem through various tools. Inshallah, from time to time we'll give you. And then what are the domain of assessment? The clinical interview, the mental status examination, the physical examination, which I've explained to you in the previous video. So there are many domains that we have to actually elicit from the person in a very gentle, in a very good manner, so that we have the full identification and understanding of the challenges, the psychological challenges that our client is facing. So we have, for example, what are his developmental history? As a child, what was his history? Whether they were abused, sexually abused, what it is. There is a lot of repressive thoughts, repression because of childhood abuse, which is now manifested in adult life and manifested in many of the behavioral problems that we see today. Okay, the family history. Whether the family is involved in alcoholism, drug, abuse, and many other situational conditions which make the life of that child, who's now an adult, a problem. All right. Then we have the medical record, because this is also, we have to extract what are his medical condition, because some of the psychosocial condition are the result of mental or neurological deficiencies, which you cannot blame the person, but these neurological deficiencies could be genetic, it could be environment, it could be also abuse in terms of drug, alcohol, and many other of the other things that we see today, even interaction of drugs, legal drugs, which they have taken, especially, for example, you have a lot of problem now of overdose of opiate throughout the world, especially in America, where you have people dying every day, and also they have a lot of dependency because of this kind of situation. All right, so you have the mental health history and find out what is the situation. Also, we also find out the academic history, what are how they go through life, and maybe even the history at school, whether they are being bullied in school, and what are the situational conditions in which we can elicit from that person. Employment history, does he work in one place, or he's moving around many jobs, every now and then leaving jobs? That can give you an idea of the instability, the psychological instability that person is facing. Maybe they go to very severe depression, or they maybe go to very severe bipolar incident, or psychosis, or mania, whatever that could trigger the loss of job. All right, criminal. So whether they have any criminal record in terms of violent behavior, or in terms of cheating, doing things that is against the law. So if you can find out, it's okay, but if it is not possible, then maybe you have to just find a side issue that do not go into too deep to that. Criminal history. Then your relationship history, what is their relationship with their family, with their father, mother? If they have wife, what are the relationship with their wife, with their children, with their relation, with their office colleague, and so on. So there is a whole spectrum of social interaction which can give an indication of the problem of the person. Sexual history, all right? What kind of sexual history that this person have, what kind of dilemma that they have in terms of their sexual behavior, and what are the problems that they have, and this could also be include situation where they have diseases and things like that, which are AIDS or whatever it is, that could be a trigger for their depression or their mental problem. What kind of medication they are taking? So there are a lot of medication interaction that is causing a lot of behavioral problem, even though the legal drug looks very innocent, but if you look at the contraindication, you can see there's a lot of these drugs in the modern drugs that you see on the market that can affect the mental state. So we have to have competent physicians to do that, because as a psychologist or as a life coach, that is beyond us, but at least we can have an indication from a professional who can help us, especially if we have a team where there are professional physicians. hospitalization, and then what are their legal history, etc. So these are what you can elicit from them, either through a structured form or through just an interview, through a discussion, and through a progressive development as you develop trust with them, okay? Then the next one is we also have to have some sort of behavioral assessment. Focus on the presence, here and now. If you look at that person, what are his perception or his condition in terms of his dressing, in terms of his thoughts, in terms of his speech, in terms of his ability to concentrate, and so on. So you may have a whole range of understanding of the problem that person is facing. Focus on direct observation. Behavioral relationship purpose is to identify problematic behavior and situations. Identify antecedents and consequences. So these are the ABC: antecedent, behavior, and consequences, in which you can elicit from the person and maybe have some sort of ongoing discussion and relationship building to understand the nature of the specific problem that the person is facing. Then we have behavior observation and behavioral assessment. So these are the assessment, the tests that we have mentioned to you. There are many, many of those tests that I have mentioned to you in terms of the psychological tools, assessment, questionnaires that you can go. Right now, there are hundreds of them. A lot of them are run by NGO, which you can do online. But if you are doing the very specific test, then you must be licensed to do certain specific behavioral tests, okay? Either formal or self-formal, self-monitoring or other observing, problem of reactivity using direct observation methods. So then you can do the psychological testing and projective tests. Sometimes psychological testing, this must be, as I say, must be reliable and valid, and these are all, if you're doing under a situation where you are required for insurance requirement, then you must do the specific test, and you must be a qualified psychologist, counselor, licensed to do that kind of test, so that you can then bring out a reliable outcome in terms of the psychological profile. Then you also can do projective tests, and this is very, you need a lot of experiential experience to do projective tests, because these are, you are trying to find an ambiguous situation of the personality, you're projecting into something. So this type of tests are, for example, you need, for example, Rorschach in-block test, thematic appreciation, a perception test. These two are normally used, even though they are reliable, but they have a lot of problems, because this is quite actually a projection in which you are trying to find an answer, and a lot of the time the projection may not be true. So because of the reliability, a lot of psychologists or people at that level may not want to go into that. They rather go into the other areas, in which now there is more of the brain scan. There's a lot of brain scanning that you can do now, and there's a lot of areas in terms of development of the neurological sciences now that can give you a specific problem to a specific area of human behavior within the scope of the science of neurology and brain scanning. So there's many scans now, functional MRI, PET scan, EEG, and so on, which then can give you a far better understanding than the older methods, because this Rorschach in-block test and thematic perception test, these are older tools. But the newer tools now must go towards the whole idea of using the sciences of the brain. This is where the understanding of neurological function, which is growing very fast, inshallah will give us a better outcome insofar as doing the assessment. And this is something that we Muslims should embrace, be more scientific and be more accurate in our assessment, so that inshallah we can help our client and make sure that they are healed and they become a successful human being, a wonderful human being. Just like every one of us, we aspire to be a good and sincere servant of Allah, always striving to make ourselves good, helping others to be good, making the world good, inshallah.